Improvement in food resources. Importance of food. We know that all living organisms require food. We require food for energy, body development, growth and maintenance of health. Food supplies nutrients like proteins, carbohydrates, fats, vitamins and minerals. Plants and animals are major sources of food for us. We obtain most of this food through agriculture and animal husbandry. India is a densely populated country. Needless to say, there is huge requirement of food products. To meet these requirements, more land should be brought under cultivation. We need better methods to increase production efficiency of crops and livestock. Introduction of mechanized farming has helped to increase the crop yield. Modern researches in biotechnology have helped in improving the quality of food products. Let us now discuss the various ways to increase the yields of crops and livestock. Efforts have been made to increase food production and meet the increasing demand of people. Under these efforts, Green Revolution has contributed to meet the increased demand of food products. White Revolution led to better and more efficient use as well as availability of milk. However, it was observed that these revolutions led to the depletion of the natural resources. As a result, there were more chances of causing damage to natural resources and destroying the balance. Thus, it becomes important to increase the food production without degrading the environment and disturbing the balance. Hence, there is a need for sustainable practices in animal husbandry and in agriculture. However, increasing the crop or grain production and storing it in warehouse does not solve the problem of malnutrition and hunger, because people should have money to purchase the food. Food security depends on the availability of food and access to it. In our country, most of the people are dependent on agriculture for their livelihood. Thus, it becomes necessary to increase the income of people working in agriculture industry. Scientific management practices should be followed to obtain high yields from farms. This practices includes mixed farming, intercropping and integrated farming practices like combination of agriculture with livestock or poultry. Let us now study to understand how we can increase the yields of crops and livestock. Improvement in crop yields. Plants are the main source of food. Thus, it is necessary to increase the production of crops to meet the food requirements. Nature has given us the gift of a variety of food crops. Cereals, example wheat, rice, maize, millets, sorghum, etc., provide us with carbohydrates. Pulses, examples are gram, pea, black gram, green gram, pigeon pea, lentil, etc., provide us with proteins. Oil seeds, examples are soya bean, groundnut, sesame, mustard, linseed and sunflower, provide us with necessary fats. Castor oil is a medicinal oil. Vegetables, fruits and spices provide vitamins and minerals. Fodder crops are being raised as food for livestock. Example, barsim, Sudan grass, Rhodes grass, etc. Different crops require different climatic conditions, temperature, and photoperiod for growth and completion of their life cycle. Photoperiod refers to the duration of sunlight. Plants and flowering plants are dependent on sunlight as they prepare their own food through the process of photosynthesis. Some of the crops are season-specific, that is, they are grown in a particular season. Some crops grow in rainy season. Such crops grow from the month of June to October and are called Kharif crops. Paddy, pigeon pea, maize, cotton, black gram and green gram are examples of Kharif crops. There are few crops which grow in winter season. Such crops are called Rabi crops and they grow from November to April. Wheat, gram, mustard, pea and linseed are examples of Rabi crops. In India, there has been increase in the food production by 4 times from 1952 to 2010, with only 25% increase in the cultivable land area. Do you know how this increase in production has been achieved? It has been achieved by practicing different farming techniques. Farming practices can be divided into 3 stages. The first stage comprises of selection of seeds for planting. The next step is to nurture the crop plants, and the final stage is to protect the growing crop and the harvested crop from loss. Crop yields can be increased by crop variety improvement, that is, using better variety of seeds. Crop production improvement, that is, taking better care of the crop plants. Crop protection management, that is, protecting crops before and after harvesting. Crop variety improvement. Crop variety improvement depends on finding a crop variety that can give a good yield. Characteristics like disease resistance, response to fertilizers, product quality, and high yields are taken into consideration when selecting a variety or strain of crop. Another way of incorporating desirable characters into crop varieties is by hybridization. Hybridization is a technique wherein crossing of 2 dissimilar plants is carried out on a genetic level to obtain the variety of the desired crop. Hybridization is of 3 different types. Intervarietal, that is, crossing between different varieties of plants but of same species. Interspecific, that is, crossing between 2 different species of plants but of same genus. And intergeneric, that is, cross-breeding between 2 plants belonging to 2 different genera. Another way of improving the strains of crops is by introducing a gene that would provide the desired characteristic. This method results in production of genetically modified crops. These different methods of improving the variety of crops can only be useful when the crops of new varieties produce high yield under different conditions in different places. Farmers need to be provided with good quality seeds of a particular variety, that is, the seeds should be of same variety and germinate under same conditions. Cultivation practices and crop yield are related to factors such as weather, soil quality, and availability of water. Weather conditions such as drought and flood situations are unpredictable. Hence, it is necessary to cultivate crop varieties that can be grown in diverse climatic conditions and also crop varieties that can tolerate high soil salinity. Let us now understand some factors for which variety improvement is done. Higher yield. The main aim of crop improvement is to improve the productivity of the crop per acre. Quality seeds of improved plant varieties are used for their commercial production. Improved quality. Quality considerations of crop products vary from crop to crop. Characteristics such as quality of protein in pulses, quality of oil in oilseeds, baking quality in wheat, and preserving quality in fruits and vegetables are important. Biotic and abiotic resistance. Under different situations, crops suffer due to biotic stress such as diseases, insects and nematodes, and abiotic stress such as drought, salinity, waterlogging in crops, heat, cold, and frost. Crop yield would decrease due to these reasons. So, varieties resistant to these biotic and abiotic stress can improve crop production. Change in maturity duration. The crop variety is more economical if the duration of crop from the period of sowing to harvesting is short. These short durations allow farmers to grow multiple rounds of crops in a year. This reduces the cost of crop production. Uniform maturity of crop makes the harvesting process easy and reduces the loss of production during harvesting. Wider adaptability. Crop varieties which have wider adaptability will help in stabilizing the crop production under different environmental conditions. Thus, it can be said that the crop which has a wider adaptability can grow in different climatic conditions in different areas. Desirable agronomic characteristics. Varieties of fodder crop which have desirable agronomic characteristics such as tallness and profuse branching help in setting higher production. Similarly, dwarfness is a desirable character in cereal crops. Due to dwarfness, crops consume less nutrients. Thus, the development of new varieties of crop which have desirable agronomic characteristics are more important in the production of higher yield. Thus, it can be concluded that these various methods help in improvement of the crop variety. Crop production management. India is an agricultural-based country. Farming ranges from small to very large farms. Farmers have land, money, and access to information and technology. Thus, it can be said that money or financial conditions allow farmers to take up different farming practices and agricultural technologies. Good yield and higher inputs are related to each other. The farmer's purchasing capacity for inputs decides the cropping system and production practices. Therefore, production practices include no-cost production, low-cost production, and high-cost production. Let us now study the different techniques of crop production management. Nutrient management. As we require minerals for healthy growth, plants too require certain minerals for their proper growth. While a plant can make proteins, carbohydrates, vitamins, enzymes, and other compounds, it cannot create a mineral. These minerals are known as nutrients. Plants need nearly 16 essential nutrients. From where do these nutrients come? Air, water, and soil supply the necessary nutrients. On the basis of quantities required for plant growth, nutrients are classified as macronutrients and micronutrients. Macronutrients are nutrients required by the plant in large quantities. They are carbon, oxygen, hydrogen, nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium, calcium, magnesium and sulfur. Nitrogen, phosphorus, potassium are required in greater quantities than others and hence are also termed as primary nutrients. Repeated cultivation of crops decreases the primary nutrients present in the soil. Micronutrients are nutrients required by the plant in small quantities. They are iron, chlorine, manganese, boron, zinc, copper and molybdenum. Deficiency of nutrients. Soils that were once rich with life-sustaining nutrients show deficiency of nutrients, for they have been drawn from the soil by the repeated cultivation of crops, plants and trees. If nutrients are not replaced by decaying organic matter or by farmers and other soil tenders, the soil will be gradually reduced in mineral value and unable to support physiological processes in plants like reproduction, growth, respiration, susceptibility, etc. To overcome this problem of deficiency and to increase the yield, soil can be enriched by supplying these nutrients in the form of manure and fertilizers. Manure. Manure is a product obtained by the decomposition of organic matter like cow dung, human waste and plant residues, which replenishes the soil with essential elements and adds humus to the soil. They are also commonly known as natural fertilizers. Humus enriches the soil by adding nutrients, thereby increasing the crop yield. Manures enrich soil with nutrients and make it fertile. Since manure contains nutrients in small quantities, they are needed to be given in large quantities. The manure adds organic matter to the soil, which helps in improving the soil structure. This increases the water holding capacity in sandy soil. The large quantity of organic matter help in drainage and in avoiding waterlogging in clayey soils. As manures are made from animal excreta and plant waste, they are considered as biological waste. They help in recycling farm waste. On the basis of kind of biological material used, manures can be classified as compost and vermicompost and green manure. Compost and vermicompost. The process where farm waste material like animal excreta, vegetable waste, domestic waste, sewage waste, straw, weeds, etc. is decomposed in a pit is called composting. The manure so formed is called compost. The compost formed is rich in organic matter and nutrients. Compost can also be prepared with the help of earthworms. Earthworms speed up the process of decomposition of plants and animal residue. The compost formed by this process is called vermicompost. Green manure. It is a practice of growing plants like sun hemp or guar before sowing the crop seeds. These green plants are mulched by ploughing into the soil. These green mulched plants turn into green manure, thereby enriching the soil in nitrogen and phosphorus. Fertilizers. Fertilizers are manufactured artificially in the industrial units by the use of the chemicals and are used for the commercial purpose. Fertilizers supply phosphorus, potassium, and nitrogen. They are used to ensure good growth of leaves, branches, and flowers. Fertilizers help in production of higher yields in high-cost farming. Fertilizers need to be applied carefully in terms of dose, duration, and observing pre- and post-application precautions for their complete utilization. This needs to be taken into care because sometimes fertilizers get washed away due to excessive irrigation and are not fully absorbed by the plants. Flowing of excess fertilizer leads to water pollution. Continuous use of fertilizer can destroy the soil fertility because the organic matter in the soil is not replenished and the microorganisms in the soil are harmed by the use of fertilizer. Short-term benefits of fertilizer and long-term benefits of manure maintains the soil fertility and are considered to produce optimum yields in crop production. Organic farming is a farming with minimal or no use of chemicals such as fertilizers, herbicides, pesticides, etc. The system uses organic manures, recycled farm wastes, and biological agents to enhance the fertility of soil and for pest control. Organic farming helps in maintaining environment health by reducing the level of pollution. Organic farming promotes use of biofertilizers and biopesticides. Biofertilizers. Organisms which enrich the soil with nutrients are called biofertilizers. Blue-green algae and rhizobium that help in nitrogen fixation are biofertilizers. Biopesticides. Naturally occurring substances, microorganisms and other biological agents that control pests are called biopesticides. Neem leaves or turmeric used for grain storage are biopesticides. Different cropping system like mixed cropping, intercropping and crop rotation prove beneficial in control of pests and insects. These also provide nutrients to the soil. Irrigation. For the proper growth and large-scale production of crops, regular and adequate supply of water is essential. This supply is made through rainfall and irrigation. Due to the seasonal nature of rainfall, its irregularity and variability in amount, adequate supply of water is not available in all parts of the country. Poor monsoons also cause crop failure. To ensure that crops get water at right growing stages, more and more land is being brought under irrigation. The process of supplying water for agriculture by means of canals, wells, reservoirs, tube wells, etc. is known as irrigation. Advantages of irrigation. Irrigation has made it possible to bring the low rainfall and drought-prone areas under economic cultivation. In the areas where rainfall is sufficient and groundwater is also available, irrigation has raised the per hectare yield of crops. It has made possible the cultivation of more than one crop in a year in an assured manner. The various methods of irrigation are adopted in our country. Scientists have also developed many crop varieties that can tolerate drought conditions. Droughts occur because of irregular distribution or scarcity of rains. Droughts poses threat to farming areas which are dependent on rains and where farmers do not use any irrigation methods. Light soils have less water retention capacity, and the crops grown in such soil get adversely affected by drought conditions. India has a highly varied climate and a wide variety of water resources. Different irrigation systems are adopted to supply water to agricultural land depending on the kind of water resources available. These include wells, canals, rivers and tanks. Wells. Wells are constructed wherever plenty of exploitable groundwater is available. There are two types of wells, dug wells and tube wells. In dug wells, water is collected from water-bearing strata. Tube wells are constructed by setting down a pipe penetrating through the soil deeply and pulling the water from the deeper strata. From both these wells, water is lifted by pumps for irrigation. Canal irrigation. In India, irrigation on extensive areas is carried out with the help of canals. The main canal receives water from different sources like reservoirs or rivers and is branched further for irrigation. River lift system. In areas where canal flow is insufficient or irregular due to inadequate reservoir release, the lift system is more rational measure. In this system, water is directly drawn from the rivers for irrigation by pumps. Tanks. Tanks are small storage reservoirs which intercept and store the water from smaller catchment areas. Rainwater harvesting and watershed management are fresh initiatives for increasing the water available for agriculture. Construction of small check dams increases the level of groundwater. The check dams stop the rainwater from flowing and reduces the soil erosion. Cropping pattern. A variety of cropping patterns are adopted for growing crops to achieve maximum benefit. Commonly practiced cropping systems are mixed cropping systems, intercropping systems, and crop rotation practices. Mixed cropping or multiple cropping. Mixed cropping is the practice of growing two or more crops simultaneously on the same piece of land. It is also known as multiple cropping. This type of cropping leads to an improvement in the fertility of the soil and hence increase in crop yield. The two selected crops grow simultaneously supporting each other. Mixed cropping is an advantage against crop failure due to abnormal conditions like climatic conditions, attack of diseases, etc. Some successful mixed cropping practices are soya bean and pigeon pea, maize and udad dal or black gram, groundnut and sunflower, sorghum and pigeon pea, wheat and gram. Intercropping. Intercropping refers to growing more than one crop in the same land area in rows of definite proportion and pattern. A few rows of one crop alternate with a few rows of the second crop. The crops selected are such that their nutrient requirements are different. The goal of intercropping is to produce a greater yield on a given piece of land by making use of resources that would otherwise not be utilized by a single crop. Some successful intercropping practices are bajra and cowpea, cotton and mung bean, soya bean and maize.
Crop rotation. Growing one type of crop continuously in the same piece of land for years together result in depletion of land's fertility due to nutrient deficiencies and increase in disease in crops. Therefore, the rotation of crops is absolutely essential. Crop rotation is a process of growing different crops in succession on a piece of land in a specific period of time with an object to get maximum profit from least investment without impairing the fertility of soil. The sequence of crop rotation may be seasonal or year-wise. The availability of moisture and irrigation facilities decide the choice of crop to be cultivated after one harvest. If crop rotation is done properly, then more than 2 crops can be grown in a year with good harvest.
Crop protection management. Crops are infested by various pests like insects, weeds, and diseases. If pests and weeds are not controlled at a proper time, they can destruct the crop so much that most of the crop is lost. The unwanted plants which grow with a cultivated crop in a field are called weeds. Example, xanthium, gokhru, and parthenium, gajar ghas, wild oat, grass, argemone. The growth of weeds in the crop fields is harmful because they consume a great amount of nutrients, water, sunlight, and space which are meant for the crop plants. Growth of weeds tends to reduce the crop yield and lower the quality of food grains. The weeds also harbor pests and spread crop pests and crop diseases. Therefore, it is important to remove weeds from the cultivated fields during early stages of crop growth, as it is essential for good harvest. Generally, insects and pests attack the plants in 3 ways. 1. They cut the root, stem, and leaf. 2. They suck the cell sap from various parts of the plant. And 3. They bore into the stem and fruits. They thus affect the health of the crop and reduce yields. Diseases in plants are caused by pathogens like bacteria, fungi, and viruses. These pathogens can be present in soil, water, and air. They are transmitted to crop plants through soil, water, and air. Thus, weeds, insects, and diseases can be controlled by various methods. Spraying pesticides is one of the most common methods used to control weeds. Pesticides include herbicides, insecticides, and fungicides. The chemicals are sprayed on infected crop plants or used on seeds and soil. Excessive use of these chemicals can harm the crop, which is not infected, and even cause pollution. Biological control of pests and diseases is a method of controlling pests and diseases in agriculture. This method relies on natural predation rather than use of chemicals. In this method, certain birds, insects, or other living organisms are deliberately let out in the fields. They destroy the pests selectively. These methods are very specific for a particular pest. Biological control is a very slow process. There is less danger of impact on environment and water quality. Weeds can also be controlled mechanically. The pulling of weeds is the best physical method of their control. Other preventive methods such as proper seed bed preparation, sowing of crops, intercropping, and crop rotation help in weed control. Use of pest-resistant varieties and summer ploughing are measures to control the pests. Summer ploughing is a method wherein the field is ploughed deep during summer, that is, from the month of May to June, to destroy weeds and pests. Storage of grains. Besides crop production, storage of grains is the important phase of good crop management. Storage losses in agricultural production can be very high. Factors responsible for damage during storage include biotic factors and abiotic factors. Biotic factors. Biotic factors include rodents, birds and animals, insects, certain worms and microbes, that is bacteria and fungus, and action of enzymes. Abiotic factors. Abiotic factors include temperature, moisture content of the food, and humidity of the surroundings. These factors cause quality degradation, weight loss, poor germinability, and discoloration leading to poor marketability. These factors can be prevented by proper treatment and by systematic management of warehouses. Control measures are used before the grains are stored for future use. These preventive measures include cleaning of produce before storage, drying of food grains first in sunlight and then in shade. Fumigation and using chemicals are ways to kill pests. Animal husbandry. The branch of agriculture which deals with the breeding, feeding, shelter and health of domestic animals is called animal husbandry. It is the scientific and systematic management of livestock. Animal husbandry includes cattle farming, poultry farming, fish farming and beekeeping. Animals provide us food, leather, fur, and they are used for agricultural activities. Even though the bullocks have been replaced by tractors, yet the importance of cattle in agriculture economy remains almost unchanged on account of the yield of milk, manure, and hides. Thus, animals prove to be a very important resource, and as such, we need to improve our livestock and make the maximum use of them. Cattle farming. Cattle farming is done for two purposes: for milk and for draft labor for agricultural work such as tilling, irrigation and carting. Indian cattle belongs to two different species. Bos indicus means cow. Bos bubalis means buffalo. Milk-producing female cattle are called milch animals, while the male cattle used for farm labor are called draft animals. Milk production by cows depends on the lactation period. Lactation period is the period after the birth of the calf. Thus, milk production can be increased by increasing the lactation period. This can be artificially achieved by the process of breeding. Let us understand the process of breeding. Breeding means to reproduce. In case of animals, breeding is done to obtain animals with desired characters. For instance, breeding can be done to obtain high-yielding and disease-resistant varieties. Two individuals of desirable characters can be selected as parents. These are then crossed to obtain new breeds of animals called as hybrid varieties. They are high-yielding and have tremendous resistance to disease. For example, an Indian cow can give only 5 to 6 liters milk per day. By crossbreeding, we can get breeds of cow which produces 10 to 12 liters milk per day. For example, exotic or foreign breeds like Jersey, Brown Swiss have long lactation period, whereas local breeds like Red Sindhi and Sahiwal show excellent resistance to diseases. Thus, when either of the foreign breeds are crossbred with the local breed, the desired qualities are achieved. The animals produced will show both the characteristics of high lactation period and would be disease resistant. Hence, it can be said that breeding is a very helpful technique. Proper shelter and cleaning facilities should be available for the cattle, as this ensures the better health of animals and helps in production of clean milk as well. Animals require regular bathing and brushing so as to remove the dirt and loose hair. The cattle shed should have proper roofs and should be well ventilated. A well-planned shed protects the animals from rain, cold and heat. Cattle shed should be on high ground. It should be with proper slope or tilted, which will allow the water to drain away easily, thereby keeping the place dry and helps to facilitate cleaning. Sufficient place should be kept so that animals can move comfortably. The food requirement of dairy animals are of two types. A. Maintenance requirement. Maintenance requirement includes the food required to fulfill the physiological activities and support the animals to live a healthy life. B. Milk producing requirement. Milk producing requirement includes the type of food required by milch animals during the lactation period. The feed of cattle includes roughage and concentrates. The roughage consists of mainly fiber, which includes natural green plants, fodder and pulses. Concentrates have low fiber contents and contains relatively high proteins and other nutrients. The amount of food given to an animal during 24 hours period is called ration. A balanced ration containing all nutrients in proportionate amount is given to cattle. Besides roughage and concentrates, certain additional components containing minerals and micronutrients are also given to milch animals. These additional components promote the growth of animals, increase the capacity of milk production, and provide protection against diseases. Domesticated dairy animals suffer from a number of infectious diseases which can hamper milk production and sometimes prove to be fatal. The diseases of the cattle are caused mainly by microorganisms like bacteria, virus or fungi, or may be sometimes due to the attack of parasites. Parasitic diseases are caused because of parasites which may be internal as well as external. The external parasites like fleas, lice, ticks, mites cause skin diseases. The internal parasites like worms, flukes cause stomach, intestine and liver diseases. Most of these diseases can be prevented by proper sanitation, controlled diet, proper housing and also by vaccinating the animals against these diseases at the proper time and age. Poultry farming. The rearing of domestic fowls like chicken, hens and ducks to obtain eggs and meat as a source of food is known as poultry farming. Poultry farming targets egg production and broiler production for chicken meat. Two varieties of birds are reared in a poultry: layers for laying eggs, broilers for meat. Various cross-breeding programs are undertaken to develop new varieties of breeds. The Indian breed called Asil and foreign breed Leghorn are crossed for variety improvement with desirable traits. These desirable traits are: 1. The new breed should be able to produce more number of chicks of good quality. 2. The broiler parent should be dwarf for the commercial chick production. 3. The breed produced should be able to tolerate high temperature. That is, it should have summer adaptation capacity. 4. The breed should require less maintenance. 5. The breed produced should be smaller in size with the ability to use more fibrous, cheaper diets formulated using agricultural byproducts. Egg and broiler production. Broiler chickens should be fed with vitamin-rich food for good growth rate and better feed efficiency. Care should be taken to avoid mortality and to maintain feathering and carcass quality. The chickens are produced as broilers and sent to market for meat purposes. Good management practices are important for good production of poultry birds. These practices include maintenance of temperature and hygienic conditions in housing and poultry feed. Prevention and control of diseases and pests should also be taken into account for better production of poultry birds. The housing, nutritional, and environmental requirements of broilers are different from those of egg layers. The daily food requirement or ration of broilers is protein-rich feed with adequate fat, whereas the level of vitamins A and K is kept high in the poultry feeds. Fowls suffer from diseases caused by bacteria, viruses, fungi, and parasites, and also diseases caused by nutritional deficiencies in their food. It is necessary that poultry keepers should always be careful against diseases. They should maintain proper cleaning and sanitation of poultry house regularly. The mortality of fowls can be controlled by providing protection against infectious diseases through appropriate vaccination during an outbreak of diseases. Pisciculture of fish farming. Fish is a valuable and important resource of food. It is rich in proteins. Fisheries or fish production include the finned true fishes as well as crustacean animals like prawns, lobsters, and animals of phylum Mollusca. In fisheries, there are two ways of obtaining fish. One is from natural resources, which is called capture fishing, and other is by fish farming called culture fishing. The water source of fish culture can be either seawater or fresh water. Sources of fresh water include rivers and ponds. Fishes are aquatic and hence they can be cultured in water. Fishing can be done by capturing and even culturing them in marine and freshwater ecosystems. Marine fisheries. India has a vast scope of marine fishery. Marine fishery resources include 7,500 kilometers coastline and extensive deep sea. Popular marine fish varieties include fishes like pomfret, tuna, mackerel, sardine, Bombay duck, etc. Marine fishes can be caught using many kinds of fishing nets from fishing boats. More fishes can be caught by locating large schools of fish in the open sea using satellites and echo sounders. Some marine fishes of high economic value are farmed in sea water. These fishes include finned fishes like mullets, bhetki, and pearl spots. Shellfishes such as prawns, mussels and oysters, and even seaweed can be farmed in seawater. Oysters are cultivated for the pearls. As marine fish stocks get depleted, the demand for more fish can only be met by a practice called mariculture. Mariculture is a technique of cultivation of marine animals to meet the demands of marine food and other products. Inland fisheries. Inland fisheries deals with the freshwater and brackish water fisheries. Freshwater resources include ponds, canals, reservoirs and rivers. Brackish water resources are those where seawater and freshwater meet. Estuaries and lagoons are examples of brackish water resources. Capturing of fish is carried out in such inland water bodies, but the yield is not high. Most of the fish production from these resources is through pisciculture. Pisciculture can also be done in combination with growing of rice crop. As paddy field needs more water, fishes can be cultured in the field. Intensive fish farming can be done in composite fish culture systems. In such systems, both local and imported fish species are used. In such intensive farming, a combination of 5 or 6 species of fishes are taken and put in a single pond. These species include katla, rohu, mrigal, common carps and grass carps. The species selected are such that they do not compete for food and have different food habits. Thus, the food available at all the parts of the pond is used. For example, katlas are surface feeders. Rohus feed in the middle zone of the pond. Mrigals and common carps are bottom feeders, and grass carps feed on weeds. These species, when put together in a pond, can use all the food in the pond without competing with each other for food. Thus, this increases the fish yield from the pond. One of the major problems in composite fish culture or pisciculture is that many of the species of fish breed during monsoon season only. Even if the seeds of these fishes are collected from wild, they can get mixed with other species as well. Thus, it can be said that availability of good quality fish seed is a major problem in fish farming. To overcome such problem, breeding program is carried out wherein the fishes are bred inside the ponds using hormonal stimulation. This ensures the supply of pure fish seed in desired quantity. Apiculture or beekeeping. The technique of rearing honey bees at a commercial level for the production of honey is termed as apiculture. The extensive use of honey has made beekeeping an agricultural enterprise. It requires very low investments, so farmers use it as a source of additional income. Another useful substance obtained from bees is the bee wax. It is used in the manufacturing of candles and in various medicinal preparations. For commercial production of honey, bee farms or apiaries are established. The local varieties of bees used for commercial honey production are Apis cerana, commonly known as the Indian bee, Apis dorsata, the rock bee, and Apis florae, the little bee. Besides this, an Italian bee variety, Apis mellifera, has also been brought to increase yield of honey. The Italian bees have high capacity of collecting honey. They sting less and can stay in a given beehive for a longer period of time. These bees can breed very well. The quality of honey depends on the pasturage or the flowers available to the bees for nectar and pollen collection. The kind of flowers available also determine the taste of the honey.